Hey guys, today I'll be talking about the Yom Kippur War. First off, we'll be talking about the basic background information of the war. Then we're also going to analyze two primary documents, as well as talk about the effects of the Yom Kippur War and the current Arab-Israeli conflict. So, let's start with some basic background information. The war was started and was fueled by the anger and hate of the Arabs after the 6-Day War. The Arabs, though they thought they had the higher advantage because of more people, the Israelis had the better technology, and they ended up winning the war. When they ended up winning the war, the Arabs, basically the Syrians and the Egyptians, lost a ton of land. The Syrians lost the Golan Heights, which was the border between Syria and Israel, and it pushed them miles back, and there was a huge mountain range that the Israelis conquered. On the Egyptian side of things, the Egyptians lost the Sinai Peninsula, which is the small peninsula that connects Egypt and the Middle East. They also lost that to the Israelis. So the Arabs had basically devised a plan, and they were going to carry out an invasion plan of Israel on Yom Kippur, which is one of the holiest days, if not the holiest day, in Judaism. This day was October 6th, and because this was a day which was highly celebrated, the Arabs were able to take a huge offensive. They had conquered a ton of territory, and they had pressed the Israelis from both sides, from Africa as well as the Middle East, and the Arabs had a ton of backing from other Arab countries as well as the Soviet Union and countries allied with them. For example, North Korea had sent some jets to help the Arabs. And at the same time, the Americans and Europe backed Israel to help them because they were their main support and control in the Middle East. So it was a very tense war, and during this time, everything was turned around at that time. However, after a while, the Egyptians stopped advancing, and there was no given reason, because the Israelis had started to turn all their focus on the Syrians, and the Egyptians could have advanced for miles more, that they didn't for no reason. And there eventually was a ceasefire, and to stop the Israelis from conquering Syria, there agreed to be a ceasefire, and the Egyptians had been given back the Sinai Peninsula. However, the Syrians still lost the Golan Heights, and they take even more land. They also make a treaty with Egypt. So today, the first primary document we'll have is Golda Meir's speech to the Israeli population once the Arabs first advanced. So, the origin of this document is Golda Meir, who was the Prime Minister of Israel in 1973. And its purpose was to inform the Israelis of what had happened, and there were two main values. First off, it was the Prime Minister speaking it, and it was also a primary document. However, it doesn't say how Israel will combat this situation, and it's not an official stand of the Israeli government. So, the second primary document we'll analyze is the Vinogradov memo. So, some background information. Vinogradov was the Soviet ambassador to Egypt, and this was a document made that was basically the origin, and the document's purpose was to recount how he had continually pressed Egypt into advancing even more territory when Israel was only focusing on Syria. However, they didn't. The purpose of this was to say that this was actually a war, and the Egyptians and the Americans had agreed on this, that that Egypt was going to leave Syria behind. They're going to get back the Sinai Peninsula, and they're going to create a peace treaty, causing even more stability in the Middle East. Now, some values is that it talks about a secret war, and it also is the stand of the Soviet ambassador to Egypt. However, the limit is that, again, there is no proof, as this is just a conspiracy, and the Soviets didn't necessarily back this in the beginning. So now, the effect of the Yom Kippur War. First off, the Israelis advanced into Syria even more, They took even more area, even after the Golan Heights, and it became a very tense border situation. However, at the same time, Egypt and Israel got a peace treaty, and later on, the Jordanians did too. While this was a neutral side of things, because by having Egypt have a treaty with the U.S. and Israel, it stabilized the region. However, it became also more tense because Syria was even madder now at Egypt, as well as the U.S. and Israel. So, the Arab-Israeli conflict today, now more Arab countries have partnered with Israel. The Golan Heights are still a very intense place. There have been organizations formed within Israel that try to combat in Palestine that try to combat Israel. For example, Hamas, and now many other countries such as Jordan, Saudi Arabia, among other countries, have treaties with the Israelis. So thank you for watching this.